When most people buy an investment property, they just put their own name on the deed. It feels normal. It's easy. And it works until something goes wrong. Because the truth is, if your tenant slips and falls, if your contractor gets injured, if someone sues you, your personal assets could be on the line. But there's a way to create a legal wall between your investments and your personal life. It's called buying real estate in an LLC, a limited liability company. In this guide, I'll walk you through exactly how it works, why investors use it, the pros, the cons, and some advanced strategies for holding properties the smart way. And along the way, I'll share real-world stories of when an LLC saved an investor's assets and when it didn't. So if you own property or plan to, this is something you can't afford to ignore. Let's start simple. An LLC is a business structure. It's a separate legal entity from you. That means in the eyes of the law, you and your LLC are not the same person. If your LLC owns a property and something happens with that property, the LLC, not you personally, is responsible. And that's the first big reason people buy real estate in an LLC, liability protection. But LLCs can do more than that. They can also help with privacy, partnership structures, and even certain tax advantages. We'll unpack all of that in a moment. So why not just own the property in your own name? Well, think about it. If a tenant sues and you own the property personally, they can come after your personal assets, your savings, your home, your cars. But if the property is owned by an LLC, the claim is generally limited to the assets inside that LLC. It's like keeping your eggs in separate baskets. If one property has a problem, the others aren't automatically at risk, especially if they're in separate LLCs. There's also the privacy factor. In some states, your name doesn't appear on public property records if it's owned by an LLC. That can make it harder for someone to target you. And then there's the flexibility. If you bring in partners, an LLC can outline exactly how profits, responsibilities, and ownership are split. Now, this all sounds great, but it's a not without trade-offs. And before you even set up an LLC, you need to understand how financing works. Here's something a lot of new investors don't realize. If you buy a property directly in an LLC, most traditional banks won't give you a standard 30-year fixed mortgage. They see LLCs as commercial borrowers. That means higher interest rates, shorter terms, and often larger down payments. One common workaround? Buy the property in your own name first with traditional financing, then transfer it to your LLC later. But this can trigger something called the due on sale clause, which technically allows the bank to call your loan due immediately. Do they often do it? Not usually, but it's a risk you need to know about. Another option is to use a commercial lender from the start or pay cash, then refinance later under the LLC. And this is where planning your structure before you buy becomes really important. Because once the property is in an LLC, you've changed the game for your lender. All right, let's say you're ready to buy in an LLC. Here's the general flow. First, you choose a name for your LLC. Make sure it's available in your state and follows any naming rules. Second, you file articles of organization with your state. This is the official document that creates your LLC. Third, you create an operating agreement. This outlines how the LLC is run, who owns what percentage, how profits are split, and what happens if someone leaves. Fourth, you get an EIN from the IRS, a tax ID for your LLC. And finally, you open a business bank account. This is crucial because mixing personal and business funds can destroy your liability protection. With that set up, your LLC is ready to buy property. But should you put all your properties in one LLC or create separate LLCs for each one? Here's the rule of thumb. The more valuable the assets, the more you might want to separate them. One LLC holding one property creates a clean separation. If one property is sued, the others are untouched. But multiple LLCs mean more fees, more bookkeeping, more complexity. Some investors use a series LLC where allowed. This lets you have multiple property cells under one umbrella LLC. Others hold properties in separate LLCs, all owned by a parent holding company. There's no one-size-fits-all. This is where legal advice is worth its weight in gold. Now let's talk taxes, because this is where people get confused. By default, a single-member LLC is a pass-through entity. That means the income flows straight to your personal tax return, no separate corporate tax. Multi-member LLCs file a partnership return, but profits still pass through to the owners. You can also elect to have your LLC taxed as an S-corp in certain situations to potentially save on self-employment taxes. But that's usually more relevant for active business income than rental income. The point is, LLCs don't magically eliminate taxes, but they can make tracking income and expenses cleaner, especially if you have multiple properties. Now here's the part nobody likes to admit. An LLC isn't a magic shield. If you personally guarantee a loan and the property goes south, the lender can still come after you. If you commit fraud or fail to maintain the LLC properly, a court can pierce the corporate veil and hold you personally liable. And in some cases, your insurance may give you as much or more protection than an LLC would in the event of a lawsuit. So the best approach? Use both. Solid insurance coverage plus the liability structure of an LLC. Let's look at two quick stories. Investor 1 owned a duplex in their personal name. Tenant fell on icy steps, sued for medical costs. Insurance covered part of it, but the judgment exceeded the policy. They had to dip into personal savings to cover the rest. Investor 2 owned a small apartment building through an LLC. When a contractor was injured on site, the claim was against the LLC only. The investor's personal home, savings, and other properties were untouched. It's not that LLCs prevent lawsuits. They don't, but they can limit the damage when one happens. If you decide to buy real estate in an LLC, here's what to keep in mind. Always keep LLC finances separate from personal. Always sign contracts in the LLC's name, not your own. Maintain your annual filings and fees, and make sure your insurance policy names the LLC as the insured party. Done right, you create a legal and financial firewall between your personal life and your investments. Buying real estate in an LLC isn't for everyone. If you're buying your first single-family rental, you might decide it's not worth the complexity just yet. But as you grow, as your portfolio value climbs, the protection and flexibility an LLC offers can be a game changer. So, is it right for you? That depends on your goals, your risk tolerance, and your willingness to manage a little extra paperwork for a lot of extra peace of mind. If you're serious about building wealth in real estate, it's worth considering from day one. If you got value from this, hit that like button and subscribe for more real estate investing tips. Drop your LLC questions in the comments, and I might cover them in a future video. And if you want my free guide, How to Structure Your Real Estate Investments for Maximum Protection, the link's in the description. Until next time, keep learning, keep investing, and keep building your financial freedom.